Hello loves, and welcome to another video. Today I am going to be going over the hidden books behind me, which is every book on my physical TBR. For 2024, one of my reading goals is going to be keeping my physical TBR at a plateau level, not buying more books than what I already have and only buying if I have read something. Behind me, I have the 50 books that are on my on-read TBR shelf, which I can't film in front of because it's in an awkward little corner. I will be going over each of these books, what it's about briefly from reading the summary, and also why I specifically want to read it. The first book is Islands in the Net by Bruce Sterling. This is about a netherworld of mercenaries and voodoo on the internet, and apparently a murder. This is often included in lists of the best cyberpunk novels, and I haven't read anything from Bruce Sterling yet. I also happened to find this at a used bookstore, so I got a good price on it, so that is why this one is on my TBR. The second book is The Call of Cthulhu and Other Stories by H.P. Lovecraft. This is the foundation of Eldritch horror. I know H.P. Lovecraft is a controversial figure, but I do want to read where those stories came from with a critical eye, of course. And I actually really want to read this because I participate in a tabletop gaming group, and the system we use is Delta Green, which deals with a lot of Eldritch horror. So I would like to know the origins of the creatures that my player character is fighting. So, The Call of Cthulhu. Next book is Recursion by Blake Crouch. This is about a infectious disease that is spreading, and if I know anything about Blake Crouch's writing, I'm sure there's some deep technological aspect to that as well. I really enjoyed Upgrade. I read that in 2022 and it was probably among my top 5 of the year. I read Dark Matter this year and also really enjoyed it. So next for me is going to be Recursion, and that's why I decided to pick this up, knowing that I already like Blake Crouch as an author. I trust enough to get this one physically. The next book is Night Bitch by Rachel Youder. This is about a woman who recently gave birth, and as she is at home taking care of her new child, she starts to develop symptoms of being a werewolf. And I'm usually a vampire girly, not a werewolf girly, but I was just really drawn in by the title. It grabs your attention, and there was a buy 3 get 1 free sale, and I was interested enough by this to want to pick it up physically, so I'm hoping that Rachel does not let me down. The next book on my physical TBR is 50 Shames of Earl Grey by Fanny Merkin, or Andrew Schaefer. This is clearly a parody novel of 50 Shades of Grey. This was a book that was given to me quite a few years ago that I just put on a shelf that hadn't read yet, but because I am determined that I am not allowed to buy new books until I've read ones I own, we are going to read this because it was a gift, and we at least try to read books that are gifted to us. We'll see how it goes. I have not read 50 Shades of Grey. I have watched YouTube videos that read them out and criticize them line by line, but I haven't actually sat and read the physical book, so maybe I love this. We'll find out. Next book is a hardcover, and that is Devil House by John Darnielle. This book is about an author who is kind of washed up and hasn't written anything good in a while. So he decides to break his writing slump. He's going to move into a house where there was a murder during the Satanic Panic, and we go from there. I assume spooky things happen given the genre. I decided to pick this up because I found it on Book Outlet for a very good price, given that it is a hardcover, and also the author is the lead singer of the Mountain Goats, so I'm really interested to see how this goes for me. I am really interested in the Satanic Panic. I found that era very fascinating, so we will see if this one pays off. Last book in this stack is Family Business by Jonathan Sims. In this book, our protagonist is a woman whose best friend recently died, and in her grief, she gets a job as someone who cleans up from the sites of other people's family members' deaths. And as we progress through the story, she starts to see things she can't exactly explain, and that might be a little bit on the dangerous side. I picked this up. I even ordered this from the UK because it wasn't out in Canada yet when I bought it, because Jonathan Sims wrote one of my favorite podcasts of all time, and that is the Magnus Archives. I also read his last novel, 13 Stories, and enjoyed that. So I am looking forward to seeing more of Jonathan Sims in the family business. Moving on to stack number 2, we have Mystery of the Whale Tattoo by Franklin W. Dixon. This is one of the Hardy Boy novels, which are a classic series of mystery novels aimed at children. I haven't read any Hardy Boys before. I did read a lot of Nancy Drew in my time. The reason that I picked this up when I saw it in a used bookstore is that I have a whale tattoo and I want to know what's mysterious about it. So I'm assuming it has to do with pirates or a sailor or something, but I thought this would be a fun thing to just own because of the title, but I will read it and see if it's worth picking up for other people. The next book on my physical TBR is It's the World's Birthday Today by Flocke. This is the keyboardist from the band Rammstein. I picked this up because I am a Rammstein fan. I saw them in concert last year and it was spectacular in the way that it was a spectacle. There was pyrotechnics, there was confetti, there was amazing music, great vibe from the crowd. It was such a good time overall. This is a reflection of his time touring with the band and being in a different city day after day. So I am kind of interested to hear the behind the scenes evaluation of their tours. So that is why I picked this up. The next book is Once Upon a Predator by Alex Locke. This is a psychological thriller about a series of murders that is sweeping through a small town. The story behind this one is it was a Christmas gift from a friend. They apparently went into a small independent bookshop near them and said that they were looking for a gift for me, but that I read so much that they would struggle to know what I had and hadn't read. So the bookshop owner recommended this one as a local small indie author, and I'm looking forward to checking it out, as I don't think this one has very many reviews at the current time, and hopefully we'll see if it is a good psychological thriller with a thread of horror, as the back describes. The next book on my physical TBR is Babel by R.F. Kuang. This is a dark academia fantasy novel about a student at a Oxford University translation department that uses silver bars to figure out the lost translation of words. Haven't read it yet, that's what I got from the description. This is obviously very well known and regarded on Book Talk, and I read Yellowface this year, loved it, and went out and bought a physical copy of this immediately. So I am looking forward to eventually getting to this brick of a book and hoping that R.F. Kuang continues to be an author that I love. The next book, also well known on BookTube, Book Talk, etc., House of Leaves by Mark Danielewski. This is a book about a book called House of Leaves that is this big mystery that gets passed around with different people trying to solve it, and here we go. Let's try and solve it. I picked up a physical copy of this book because of the nature of this book. You have to read things backwards in a mirror. There's things that spiral off the page and footnotes and all these different things to keep track of. So I didn't think a digital copy or a library copy would be sufficient. This needs to be highlighted. This needs to be tabbed. So I picked up a physical copy of it. So when I get to it, I can do all of those things. The last book in stack number 2 is Slewfoot by Brom. This is about a colonial town where a woman who has recently been widowed is kind of ostracized by her town, and I guess some kind of devil demon shows up. I have heard really great things about this from a lot of my favorite booktubers and found it on Book Outlet with this cover. I had to get it. It is stunning. There are also paintings throughout the book. Stunning. So I wanted this to grace my shelves with its beauty, and I'm hoping that the story inside lives up to the gorgeousness that is those paintings. Our first book in stack number 3 is Una Out of Order by Margarita Montemor. This book is about our main character Una, who's living her life in iPod shuffle mode. When she finishes a year, hooray, 22, turning 23? No, you're now 62. You're done being 62? Okay, now you're 47. And she wakes up essentially at different points in her life, and the experience of living your life not knowing what's happening next and not knowing who you'll be when you wake up in the morning, I find that really interesting, and I'm sure the back describes it as heart-wrenching. I found this on Book Outlet for a really good price, and I had heard good things about it, so I decided to pick it up, and we'll see if that pays off. Next, we have Starship Troopers by Robert A. Heinlein. Last year I read Stranger in a Strange Land, and I enjoyed it, but there were also some problematic elements of it, and I know there's a movie based on Starship Troopers, so I found this in a used bookstore, and I thought, let's give Robert Heinlein another good try. But then I've heard recently that this is maybe a fascist metaphor that's meant to be taken seriously, but the movie's a parody. I don't know. I'm gonna read the book, I'm gonna watch the movie, and then maybe I'll look up some analysis of it to go from there. But as someone who is exploring the science fiction film genre, I thought reading the book is a good tie-in way to prepare myself for that and keep myself educated on the history of a genre. Plus, I found it in a used bookstore for cheap, so why not? Going from movies to video games, the next book is A BioShock Rapture. This is a novelization expanding on the history of the world in the BioShock video games. I haven't played all of the BioShock games because I tried playing the first one and the splicers freaked me out so much I couldn't play, but I have watched playthroughs of all of them, and I find the world, especially of the first two, to be really fascinating, and I found this in my library's used bookstore for like $1. I thought, why not? We'll see how it goes. So, BioShock Rapture. Next book is Lies, Inc. by Philip K. Dick. This is about a world that is facing overpopulation, so they offer citizens the option to teleport to a utopian place called Whale's Mouth, but it's one way only, so they can't come back. I love Philip K. Dick. Ubik was among my favorites for 2022. Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep blew my mind. I found this in a used bookshop and figured, why not? I love Philip K. Dick, so I'm looking forward to see how this one goes for me. And next is another book by a favorite author, and that is Mona Awad's 13 Ways of Looking at a Fat Girl. I read Bunny and loved it. I read All's Well and loved it. I read Rouge and loved it. This is the one I haven't read yet. Obviously, because I loved the first 3, picking up the 4th one seemed like a good bet, and I found it on Book Outlet, so I didn't even have to pay full price. So those were all the standalones, which have now been returned to their proper place, and now we are going to go through all of the series that are on my TBR shelf. The first on my series TBR is the Sookie Stackhouse Mysteries. I have 3 of those on my TBR shelf: From Dead to Worse, Dead and Gone, and Dead in the Family. These are the Sookie Stackhouse books. They're what the True Blood series is based on. I have read the first 7 already, and I have been, as I find them, collecting these from used bookstores. I am really enjoying this series as a light palate cleanser between more serious things, so These are the 3 that I have, and I will be picking new ones up as I finish these ones. The next 3 in a similar vein is the next 3 books of the Outlander series that I haven't read yet. So Dragonfly and Amber, Voyager, and Drums of Autumn. These are number 2, 3, and 4 respectively. I have only read the first one of these. I am planning to read the rest of them once I finish the Sookie Stackhouse series, but as I have been finding these as used bookstores in these covers that I have started collecting, I'm picking them up to have them ready to go once I am ready to read. The next series I have 5 books of, and that is the 6 Tudor Queens series by Alison Weir. These go through the details of the lives of each of the 6 wives of Henry VIII. Huge fan of Six the Musical. It was my most played artist on Spotify this year, so I have read the first of these series and haven't read the other 5 yet. Those are for after Outlander, but there was a buy 3 get 1 free sale, and I knew I needed to pick up these, and they sent me a hardcover even though I ordered a paperback, and then didn't have the paperback in stock to actually send me. So it looks a little weird, but I am looking forward to eventually reading these and also putting these down before I drop them. The next is a book that I have soft DNF. I don't want to on-haul it. I am determined to eventually finish this, and that is the original illustrated Sherlock Holmes. I've read about a quarter of this so far. It is the stories of Sherlock Holmes, which is a cultural icon and I'm sure you are familiar with. I have owned this book for 11 years now. I will read this eventually, I promise. Maybe. Those were all the series that I have started. Now we'll go on to series that I have purchased but haven't started yet because I've been focusing on finishing series I have started. The first is Red Dragon by Thomas Harris. So this is kind of the first Hannibal Lecter book. Silence of the Lambs is the reason that I decided to go into film studies. It was the first movie I saw and was like, this is art. So I am looking forward to reading the origins of the Silence of the Lambs, and I'm going to start with Red Dragon. I own Red Dragon first because it was on Book Outlet, and I'm hoping that I can get the others from used bookstores because I do occasionally see them, but I usually see short paperbacks and I want tall paperbacks. So we'll see once I actually get to this one how that works out for the rest of the series. The next series is a duology, and that's the Jacques McCohen series by Yahtzee Croshaw. We have We'll Save the Galaxy for Food and We'll Destroy the Galaxy for Cash. These are by Yahtzee Croshaw, who on the internet is known as Zero Punctuation. I used to love his game reviews, and when I found out he had done some novels, I was interested in picking them up. Found them on Book Outlet, got them, haven't read them yet, but they are labeled as a satirical sci-fi adventure, and I'm here for some satirical sci-fi. So looking forward to those. The next 4 books are all by the same author, but I think they're 2 different series, but I've kind of lost track, so I'm just going to throw them together. That is these 4 books by William Gibson. We have Peripheral, Agency, Spook Country, and Pattern Recognition. I think Pattern Recognition is the one that's from a different series. William Gibson is well known for pioneering the cyberpunk genre, and I did enjoy some of the Neuromancer series, and I'm interested to see what he can do with a different vibe. So I picked these up from Book Outlet or a used bookstore, and we will get around to these once I have wrapped up some of the series that I'm already reading. The next book is Lovecraft Country by Matt Ruff. This is sort of an eldritch horror story set in 1950s Chicago. I really loved the HBO show when it came out, and I'm very sad it didn't get renewed for a 2nd season, but I will fill the hole in my soul with the book, and I'm hoping that it is just as good. The next book I think is the only one that's out in this series so far, but Goodreads says it's a series, so it's on my series shelf, and that is Hench by Natalie Zena Walshot. This is about our main character who works an office job until she's one day injured by a hero and then laid off. And so, with her admin skills, she goes to work for a villain. I've heard kind of mixed things about this. I saw it on Book Outlet though and thought that for the hardcover it was a good deal. So I picked this up and I'm hoping that I'm on the side who really love it. The next is another science fiction series, and that is Cryptonomicon by Neil Stephenson. So we have Cryptonomicon, Remedy, and Fall or Dodge in Hell. This is a series by Neil Stephenson. I think there can be read as standalones, but they are connected in certain ways. And I found the first one in a used bookstore for only $1, and then I got the other two on Book Outlet. And because these are so thick, I would get stressed out trying to read it at the library before the loan period ended. So I decided to buy them, especially since I got them as a good deal. And I mean, bonus, you can totally use these to do some bicep curls because they are very heavy. And the next 3 books are maybe a little indie. So the first 2 are by Patricia K. McCarthy, The Crimson Man and The Crimson Boy. These are about vampires. I picked them up at a comic book convention. They are independently published and I wanted to support a small author, so I picked these up and I'm hoping that I really enjoy them. At the same convention, I also picked up The Light of the Stygian Orb by Krista Walsh. This is a urban fantasy novel, and I just really like that there was an archer on the cover because I did recently start doing archery myself and wanted to support some smaller self-published authors. So I'm hoping that one of these ends up being a hit for me. Okay, so those are the 50 books that are on my physical TBR shelf. Hopefully I can look back on this video at the end of the year and say, wow, I read all of those. But if not, I can't buy any new books, so I have a little bit of motivation to do so. If you made it to the end of this video, let me know in the comments down below if you have read any of the books on my TBR shelf and what you thought of them. Thanks for watching, like, subscribe, hit the bell, and see y'all next time.